Leviticus 1 through 7. The Israelites were introduced to all the offerings required by God to be in the presence of God. You know, offerings like the burnt offering, the grain offering, the fellowship offering, the sin offering, and the guilt offering. Strangely enough, there was no mention of an offering just before or right after the message. Leviticus 8 through 10. Moses' brother Aaron and Aaron's sons were ordained as priests and began their ministry. They had to wear a bunch of fancy clothes and follow a bunch of rules. One time, both of Aaron's sons didn't follow the rules, and they died. Apparently, some rules were meant to be followed. Leviticus 11 through 15. These chapters included lists of things that were clean and things that were unclean. One example, cows were clean, pigs were not. In other words, beef brisket is good, pulled pork is bad. Leviticus 16. God instituted the Day of Atonement. Maybe you recognize it as Yom Kippur. It's a day when sacrifice is made for all the sins of Israel. Leviticus 17 through 22. God gave more commands and laws, and also the punishments for breaking them. Leviticus 23 through 24. God gave Moses the instructions about all of the Jewish festivals, like the Sabbath, the Passover, the offering of first fruits, the festival of weeks, the festival of trumpets, the Day of Atonement, and the festival of tabernacles. They celebrated everything God did in their lives. Maybe we should too. Leviticus 25. Here's the explanation of one of the greatest gifts God gave to people: rest. God worked for 6 days and rested on the seventh. God wants us to work for 6 days and rest on the seventh. God wants the land to work for 6 years, but rest on the seventh. Then, every 50th year, they were to celebrate the year of Jubilee. During that year, debts were canceled, lost property was restored to the original owner, and slaves went free. I see why it's called a year of Jubilee. Leviticus 26. Here's the same principle. There's a reward for obedience and punishment for disobedience. Leviticus 27. Last but not least, this chapter describes how much it will cost to redeem certain things for the Lord. And we're reminded that a tithe of everything belongs to the Lord, and it is holy. And that is the story of Leviticus.